Hello and welcome to this tutorial which is about extending the canvas. And what we have here is an image which has been shot with 85mm lens in portrait orientation. And I really like this image. I like the capture. The main thing I like about it is the model's expression. But I like the color as well. There's a lot of things I like about it, but I'm not quite so crazy about the fact that it's in portrait orientation. Generally speaking, I would prefer to have a landscape capture to work with. And if we look at this, this is another unedited image from the same shoot, shot again, this is 85mm in landscape. And you can see here that I've captured a lot more of the environment around the model. And so I've got a lot more air and space around her, which I find makes for a much more interesting, pleasing image. And it gives me more scope. When I come to editing, I've got more to work with in terms of things like distribution of light, separating the subject from the background, and so on. I just have more to work with. So, but I really like this one because of her expression. And so I'm using this as as a kind of example of a situation where we would like to be able to extend the canvas and the background of the image on the canvas to get more of that air and light around the subject. So how can we do this? Well, the first thing we're going to need to do is extend our canvas to give us some space to work on. And here, because at this stage, I'm not 100% sure quite how much I want to extend it. My approach is just to double it to begin with. I need relative. I need my anchor set so that I'm just extending to the right. I could just steal some color from the background, but that's not going to enable me to replicate this kind of natural gradient which we've got from the light falling onto the wall behind her. So in fact, I'm just going to use black. And so now what I need to do is basically replicate this background across into this black area. So if I select my rectangular marquee tool, what I need to do is basically kind of take a slice of this background area and hopefully using the Photoshop's nice guides will enable me to get this right. And I then want to just copy that across into a new layer, and I can, if I take my move tool, I can just drag that layer across. And then I can just carry on making more of these layers and just move them across. And here, as I say, I'm not sure exactly whether I need all this, but I just want to give myself space to work with. So I'm just going to doggedly continue copying these across. And yeah, I think that'll do. I'll do one more just to fill that in there. And so now I've got this negative space to the right of the subject. I've also got these kind of joins, visible joins between my layers, which I don't really want. So I'm going to just flatten that. make a copy layer, and I'm just going to use Gaussian blur to set it around 100, and that will just kind of iron out those visible joins between my layers. And now I want to mask this, and I'm using opacity set it to 100 because I want to restore, I don't want any blur on my subject, just on the background. So I can use my brush to get rid of that blur on my subject. Okay, so that's pretty much the basic idea of this. And now I can think in terms of just cropping this image. If we look at our image size at this point, we've now got width 7680 and the same height, obviously. So I could just fold that Gaussian blur layer in, and I can just crop this image however I want. And what I've done here is I've actually on the cropper preset the dimensions of a landscape image. So I could, for example, I could just accept that crop, and then what I've got now is an image which is the same dimensions as this landscape image, but I might feel, for example, that's rather a lot of negative space out there. So you know, it really just depends on your sort of view of it artistically, what you're hoping to achieve. We can also, of course, we can go the other way. We could decide that we'd like to extend this curtain area. So if we were to say that we now extend the canvas, maybe let's say let's go for 3000 pixels relative, and we now want to go the other way out to the left, and we can do the same thing here. We can select our rectangular marquee tool, and we can steal a slice of this curtain fabric and copy that, and then we can pull that out this time to the left, and we could make some more copies of that slice and pull those out into this new area of space that we've created to the left. And again, we're just, you know, we're kind of in an artistic experimenting mode here. We're not quite sure what we're going to end up with, but we're giving ourselves a chance to creatively extend the canvas, extend the space around the model, and see what we come up with. Now I can flatten this. I think that this looks a little bit artificial, doesn't it? So I think once again I'm going to make use of Gaussian blur, but probably not quite as strong. And I think what I'm thinking is that I'm going to let that curtain just sort of gradually blur off to the left. Once again, I can mask, and once again I want to retrieve my subject from the blurring effect. I don't want her to be blurred at all. Okay, so I'm removing the blur from her. I'm going to remove most of the blur from the curtain on this right hand area edge, and so we've got some curtain texture there. And then I'm thinking what I'll do is just sort of progressively create a kind of blur gradient stretching off to the left, so it just gradually gets more kind of blurry as we go off to the left. And I know that I'm not going to want to use all this, but I'm just giving myself something to work with, as we said before. I just want, just for a second, just go back and make absolutely sure that I've taken the blur off my subject completely. And now I really want to, I'm going to fold that in, and we're getting quite a large file here actually at this point. This is now over 10,000 pixels wide. So, and what we could do now is, for example, we could just decide to crop our image something like that. For example, and that when we look at our image size, so we find that what we've created now is effectively a landscape format image, and you know, obviously you depending on the sort of artistic intention and what you like, you might want to do this differently, you might want to crop it differently, you might want to do all kinds of things differently, but what I'm really just trying to illustrate is that this technique, given a suitable image, this technique enables us to add this the same kind of light and space around the subject which we have in our landscape image, and effectively really to sort of convert this portrait format image into a landscape format. So there we are. That's the basic techniques that you can use, and I hope you find that interesting. Perhaps you enjoy exploring working with extending the canvas, extending backgrounds and so on for your own creative purposes. And thank you very much for listening and watching the video, and look forward to seeing you on the next one.